there'll be debates in the States, too, about several players like Cole Caulfield and Tage Thompson and Clayton Keller as we look at the American roster. And let's face it, you guys were mentioning Canada perhaps specifically built to beat this team, the Americans led by Matthews and Eichel and Jack Hughes down the middle, and a really talented defense squad with Quinn Hughes and Adam Fox, and a place where they certainly have an advantage on paper with all three goaltenders over the Canadians. You look at this American squad, who is better on paper, Canada or USA?
The same answer I said in the summer. On paper, the American team is better. Canada might have the best three players in McDavid, McKinnon, Makar.
But that's a lot to have the best three.
It's not how hockey works, though. You need the best 12. and the U.S.
Well, it's not like the 3 to 12 aren't that great for Canada.
The defense is much stronger. The goaltending is significantly stronger. And even the depth up front is just as good as Canada. So I think why you think Canada would have a great chance in this tournament? Because it's Canada.
Yeah.
Because they always have the best chance. Because when it matters most, they find ways to do it more than the Americans have at the highest level.
Is that why you want American tie today, which is basically red, white, and almost gray?
I think the Americans have the best roster on paper.
I do too. I grew up always watching Wayne Gretzky, Mary Lemieux, Sidney Crosby. Like, those guys always seem to get it done in the clutch, and that's why I think Canada will win this. But that American team on paper only, that's as good as it gets. That's size, that's toughness, goaltending, elite goaltending, all of it. It's just you can't, on paper, get better than that roster right there.
Craig has a bright red tie, I will note. Your thoughts on Canada versus USA?
A bright red tie and my Canada 150 shirt with Maple Leafs on it, James. So like I came dressed for the occasion. But I think I agree that USA is the better team. And here, when you look at a hard team, a big team, think of the last two Stanley Cup champions. Think about the Florida Panthers and the Vegas Golden Knights. Big, hard, heavy, along the walls, and make life really hard for you. I think this USA team is built exactly like those two recent Stanley Cup champions.
And the one thing this group of American players have is no scar tissue from losses to Canada. Sure. No big tournaments where they've played together and not come through. Because they haven't had the opportunity, and the fact they've been so successful at the World Junior Tournament. That
the aura's gone.
That intimidation, like, oh, it's Canada, it's going to be almost impossible to win this game. I don't know if the American players think that, even though it's going to be virtually impossible.
And incredibly difficult decisions that had to be made by Billy Guerin and the management group for Team USA as well, right? I mean, there's outrage in Montreal because Cole Caulfield isn't on this team, but they're not writing him off at USA Hockey. They're looking to the Olympics.
This roster that just looks like they want to do something different. No disrespect to Cole Caulfield.
No.
But they said, we want to be bigger, we want to be stronger, we want to be something different.
They wanted more complete players, and they just don't think that Cole Caulfield and Tage Thompson are better than the 13 guys that they've invited.
You look at the depth wingers on that team, and I think of this was the 16 World Cup when the Americans brought in David Backes and Brandon Dubinsky, and they did not fare well in that tournament. And Vinny Trocheck's not had a good year in New York. Chris Kreider's been injured. Plays very well in the power play. He's not going to be on the power play on the American team. Like, I just curious about those guys that filled out the bottom. If having more skill, more speed, whether it's Caulfield or not, might have been an attractive option.
I have one last question for you guys. What is this tournament going to look like? And we can start with Craig. Like, look they haven't played best on best. We know they want to win, but it's not an Olympics. Is Sam Bennett going to drill Matthew Tkachuk, Craig, if he has the opportunity?
I would say 100% definitively he will do exactly that. Because Matthew Tkachuk will do it to Sam Bennett. And I think that's the beautiful thing. I just watched the 2010 gold medal match again. I forgot how hard and competitive and edgy that game was that won in overtime with the golden goal by Crosby.
I think it's going to be somewhere between an NHL game and the Olympics, where it's like the fiercest of competition. It might be, there's a way of going to hit somebody and act like you want to kill them, but you don't really in this particular competition. It won't be NHL, it won't be the Olympics, it'll be somewhere in between.
I mean, who isn't looking forward to watching Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon for the first time play together?
It's going to be spectacular. One other element to this is Stanley Cup winners. And we know that Canada took this seriously. 15 Cup winners on Canada, 8 on Finland, only 3 on the American team, 3 on Sweden.